Hi, we're Jacqueline and Jonathan from Parent Portfolio. We're parents to two lively kids. We're investors and entrepreneurs, and we review personal finance content and share our personal insights, experiences, and tips that you can take home with yourself. Today, we'll be reading an article from NerdWallet, and the title is How to Save for a House, a Step-by-Step Guide. So let's look at these things here. It says, number 1, set a goal for how much to save. So usually the regular household cannot buy a house all outright. You most likely will take out a loan, and those bankers will require a down payment. So some loans allow you maybe to only put a down payment of maybe 5%, 10%, or even 20%, right? So what are your tips on how to save for a down payment?
I think just one, looking at the kind of house you're wanting to live in, and seeing if you can afford it.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you had the down payment, like pretend you had the down payment ready to go, could you afford the monthly payment? Would a bank approve you to get the house that you want, right? So knowing what kind of house you're going to be looking for, I think, is a first step to even kind of have an idea of how much you need to save for a down payment. And then just starting as slowly as possible. You know, whatever you can set aside, live without, put it in a savings account meant for, you know, a down payment for a house.
I think one tricky thing is when I bought my first house is the bank approved me for like X amount of dollars. Like, oh wow, you're gonna give me all this money? That means I could buy that kind of house.
Right.
Well, in reality, like if I buy that house, I'm still responsible for the mortgage, and that's gonna really eat up your
income.
Yeah.
Right.
So depending on your down payment, that will then reduce how much money you're borrowing. That will then calculate your monthly mortgage. Does your income today cover that mortgage?
Right.
And you don't want your mortgage to eat up over 30% of your monthly income, right? So it's something to be very mindful of, right? Just because you can borrow that money, should you?
Right. We need to put ourselves in a position for success.
Yeah, and for our friends who want to buy a house, one thing that we've always told them is that you don't have to buy a big house, 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom.
Especially if you're buying your first house, right?
Because what I recommend to them is like, just buy a starter house. You know, like you by yourself, or maybe you have a wife, want to rent and to own, buy a starter house, right? That property most likely will go up in value. You will gain equity. And then you can kind of trade up now. Use that equity now to buy a bigger house if you're expanding, and maybe and then that will keep your monthly payment the same, but you've got that bigger house. It takes time, and that's the thing about buying a house. You need to weigh those things and be patient, right? You don't have to hit a home right away, but have that starter house. There's no shame in that, right? It's a good place to start. So setting a goal, what can you really afford, right? And number 2, tighten your budget, right? There are ways that you can make more money to save, right? There's a way you can make more money, but also you can reduce your expenses.
Right.
So look for ways, like for example, car insurance, right? Or get rid of your subscriptions, right? I mean, there are things that are necessary, and there's things that are just luxuries.
Right.
Can you live without them for now to help you build up that down payment
a little faster?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Next one is save, raise, and windfalls. So windfalls are basically like
inheritances,
birthday money, it says bonuses, right? So it may be nice to get a raise, and you want to like
or your tax refund.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, time to go buy something big, right? Instead of, once again, buying something right away, delay that gratification.
Especially if your goal is to buy a house. You know, there's nothing wrong with treating yourself. You earned that raise, you earned that bonus. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself. But keep in mind, if your goal is to buy a house, like that in of itself is kind of treating yourself. You've just given yourself a big bump in your savings category for a down payment on a house.
Yeah, those little bonuses, those raises, like, don't change your lifestyle, right?
Lifestyle creep.
Yeah, just be steady in what you're trying to accomplish. And that kind of goes to the next one here. Automate your savings and earn extra money, because it all comes into what you're trying to accomplish, right? Your goal is to save for a house, right? So there might be things that you don't need anymore, right? Maybe that are potentially maybe collectibles, right? Or something that's sitting in the corner, right? You can sell that, right? But remember, what is the goal? I mean, you're trying to build up that down payment, right? It says here also automate your savings, right? To kind of help that money that comes in from your paycheck and push it to a savings account that's dedicated for that savings account. But remember, like, yes, you might be able to automate it, but it all comes down to what are you trying to accomplish? And what is that goal? Because you might see this bank account start to grow money and like, well,
don't forget what it's for.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, oh, I see this car. Maybe I should buy this car now. Or maybe, hey, let's go on a trip, right? I mean, those things will come and go, right? But what are you trying to accomplish, right? And that's where it comes, like, remind yourself, I'm trying to buy a house. This is how much money I need. Especially inventory can be very hard, right? Or you never know. So trying to get to that goal faster is, remember, more important than maybe that temporary gratification.
I think also keeping in mind, like, maybe right now you're hearing on the news or whatever time period is, it's not a good time to buy a house. It doesn't mean it's not a good time to start saving.
Correct. That's really
because,
good, yeah.
You don't know, you never know when the right time to buy a house is going to be for you, but you can prepare for it, right? Because what if prices start dropping, and then you feel like you can find a good deal, or even if prices are increasing, now maybe that kind of house that you're looking for is more available. You never know.
Yeah. So we actually touched on a couple of these together. I mean, number 6 says here, number 7, resist dipping into your other savings. I mean, remember, like, that goal, that money that you saved up is to buy that house. But number 8 here is really, really useful here is see if you qualify for first-time home buyer assistance programs. Not just that one, but there are other loans out there that can benefit you. So the first-time home loan, or like an FHA loan, right? If this is your first time owning a home, there could be products out there that say you only need 5% down payment. You'll definitely need a good credit score, right? The house would need to not need a lot of improvement that the bank can say, all right, it's
not too risky.
Correct, not too risky. So you don't have to save that 20%. The reason why people like to pay 20% is to avoid that PMI.
Right, yeah. And then your down payment's a little bit lower.
Yeah, but there are
your monthly payment, I mean.
Yeah, so there are avenues where, if this is your first home, talk to a bank, right? Let them know your goals, let them know your situation, and they might be able to find something for you. VA loan for the veterans, for those in the military. We have a lot of friends who serve in the military, and they bought their house with a VA loan. And the nice thing about the VA loan is that it's a 0% down payment. So typically when you finance or borrow money, the bank says, all right, you got to put some skin in the game. For those with the VA loan, or for those qualify, it's a 0%. Like, that's pretty cool. And then on top of that, if you're active military, they give you a stipend. I mean,
yeah,
I remember
it covers part of your mortgage, if not all of it.
Yeah, and there's other products out there. So, like, if you live in a rural area, or if you want to,
the USDA loan.
Yeah. So seek out a good banker, right? It doesn't have to be the first bank you go to, like a big name bank. You can go to a local one, a credit union, meet some of them, share them your goals, and they will help you with your dreams, right? So remember, if you're trying to save up for a house, stay on it. Save up those raises, those windfalls. Check your budget, right?
Is there any space for you to, instead of going in one direction, to put it more towards your goal of buying a house?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to get that smaller house, right? Real estate will appreciate, right? That you can turn around, take that equity, and buy a big one. And that's, don't feel like I have to have that big house right now, because you may not. I mean, the joke is like, oh man, I got so many bathrooms to clean, right? But take your time. Real estate will appreciate, right? And the nice thing about real estate, it is a form of shelter, right? So, anything else to add there?
No.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. Are you trying to save up for a house? Have you tried looking at different products? What are some of the struggles that you're going with? Comment below and let us know. Once again, we're Jacqueline and Jonathan from Parent Portfolio. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you later.